there's been so much misinformation about Rasta, and as time goes on, Rasta gets fuzzier and fuzzier to the mainstream world. And they have all these misconceptions about Rasta. And yet there's this reverence for Rasta, but at the same time, there's no commitment to the ancestral history and culture that has brought this country. So what I'm saying is that there's so much um, we need to come, if possible, and if you agree, we'd like to come back and invigorate people's respect and understanding of the culture.
Because the thing is, 5 years ago, 2015, the government is asking the question, who is Rastafari?
Oh my goodness.
Now, of course, keeping things on an up and up, and also giving a bit more of these updates. And shout out to the So Eco Media Street team, and also the Rastafari, or the Rastaman's Trader Circle, excuse me. The RTC will have a lot of updates coming very shortly. We've been so busy. We've actually found ourselves to be more busy during this quarantine period than actually when things were running as far as the economy and the greater society of things were running smoothly. So very ironic that we find ourselves in this position. But a lot of things are really to expound upon as far as prophecy, as far as socioeconomics, the geopolitical spectrum, and we could go on and on and on about that. But I had to share this quick update here that we had saw on many platforms, and begun to do a little research in it because it actually caught our eye when we saw the title. And we couldn't say again, or at least stress enough about how even amongst this crisis period, if ones are adequately prepared or had been adequately prepared beforehand, they could really look at a lot of these opportunities and seize them while they are to be had in the moment. And again, this is something just to keep in mind for those who may have found themselves caught back on their heels, quote unquote, in this time. And keep this in the forefront of their mind that, certain times like this will come again. We mentioned so many times before that many seasons run in cycles, and that goes for an expansion of many other topics. How things just so happen to have, this cyclical period in which, ones don't seem to catch the wave until, they're, metaphorically washed away in certain senses. But keeping this, all on the point of the topic that we had to share here, we've spoken about many ways to, change one's status, or at least change their means, and get themselves into a position that may be more befitting, as in a sense of being more enterprising and even so entrepreneurial for those who are more interested in this realm of things. We happen to catch wind of many platforms echoing this sentiment just over the span of a couple of days ago, from CNN to MSN, LinkedIn, Reddit, the Realty Times, so on and so forth. As many ones will know, one of the greatest assets that ones can hold, and even so moving throughout many centuries or so, real estate being such a pivotal asset to hold, and also a not only a scheme in a sense, but more so the entirety of the greater inner workings of how real estate can work for certain ones, especially if they educate themselves to a certain extent, can be very lucrative and be very beneficial to those who, may be able to work certain angles and get themselves into the industry, even if it's from, a start off level or startup, an entry level position, so on and so forth, may bring them such a great and vast amount of upward mobility. So here we had to share this, and we kind of shut it out to a few ones, and hopefully they caught wind of a shared link here, entitled here, Airbnb hosts are planning to sell off their properties because of the pandemic. Now, the reading here, which we will have, but of course, as we mentioned before, had been echoed on many other platforms, so ones can actually get into this and start to, again, educate themselves in the best way possible in the most rapid fashion as possible. This one coming from a Kaya Urif. And again, as we mentioned, just the span over the past 48 hours, and really caught our eye, especially in a time such as this, knowing that we, have been in this particular period over the past few months, and a lot of things really showering down on many people and giving them a lot of doom and gloom in this time. But here to the reading. Amy Oaffield always dreamed of running a vacation rental in Galveston, Texas. 5 years ago, she and her husband Chris got their wish and bought a house or a home there minutes from the beach. They immediately began restoring the property, which she named the Blue Skies Beach Bungalow, adding vintage items as well as retro and bright colored decor. But as the coronavirus spread across the United States in March, Oaffield, who has been a full-time Airbnb host for nearly 2 years, started seeing a wave of cancellations. When Galveston temporarily shut down short-term rentals as part of its stay-at-home order, Oaffield switched her Airbnb to a 30-day stay, the minimum required to be considered a long-term listing. She didn't get a single reservation, and her beach bungalow has stood empty for 2 months. Finally, after the long dry spell, her husband losing his software sales job and the continued burden of mortgage payments on the home, Oaffield made the decision to sell the beach bungalow and shut down her Airbnb business. It's been kind of an emotional roller coaster, Oaffield told CNN Business. We've lost pretty much all of our income in the last 3 months. With global travel screeching to a halt during the pandemic, a number of Airbnb hosts are planning to sell their properties at an uncertain moment for the broader real estate market, or get rid of some of their rentals as well as the furniture they bought to deck out their homes. These desperate moves come as hosts face the possibility of losing thousands of dollars a month in canceled bookings while bills, maintenance costs, and mortgage payments pile up. The sudden and painful whiplash of hosts highlights both the broader financial fallout of the pandemic and the potential risks of betting one's livelihood on the staying power of newer tech platforms. We've been working to support our community through multiple efforts, including committing $250 million to help support hosts who were affected by COVID-19 related guest cancellations and $17 million to our Superhost Relief Fund, an Airbnb spokesperson said in a statement, adding that it's launched new cleaning protocols for hosts. Our internal data points to guests' desire to travel, and we are preparing to help hosts welcome them as soon as possible. As the pandemic has stretched on, Airbnb's business model has been thrown into question. After reportedly planning to make its splashy Wall Street debut this year, the company instead had to lay off about 25% of its workforce. At the same time, it has struggled to appease the hosts, who are the backbone of its service. Airbnb announced in late March it would pay hosts 25% of what they would typically get back through their individual cancellation policies, but some hosts told CNN Business the policy doesn't go far enough to help, or that they receive smaller payments than expected. The financial fallout from the pandemic could lead to an Airbnb exodus for hosts like Jake Wolf, who has been on the platform for more than 5 years and shut down his only listing in March. I'm leaning toward absolutely not, Wolf said when asked about returning to the platform in the future. For others, it's leading to painful choices about which Airbnb properties to abandon and which to save. Christina Zima, an Airbnb host for 9 years, has managed 25 homes full-time primarily in the San Francisco Bay Area, only one of which she owns herself. So far, she has shut down 2 of those listings during the coronavirus crisis, one of which was pre-planned. Zima said some of the owners she works with are considering winding down more properties or are looking for long term tenants, further throwing the business into uncertainty. I'm scrambling trying to find out what I'm going to do and what's going to happen in the future, Zima said. I'm not making money with the Airbnb business. I am just trying to minimize my losses. Only one of the houses is meeting its expenses, meaning my rent and utilities. 6 of the properties Zima rents from the owners for a fixed cost ranging from $2,800 to $5,600 per month, and then subleases them on Airbnb as vacation rentals, in a practice known as arbitrage. The rest are partnerships with owners where she takes a cut in exchange for managing the property and acting as a liaison with guests. She takes a higher rate for furnishing the home and providing linens and other housewares. With some of the Airbnbs closing down, she's also been forced to find ways to quickly liquidate her furnishings. Zima has listed items on Facebook Marketplace and set up a pop-up tent outside of her house where people can pick up their purchases. Zima listed so many things on Facebook Marketplace in a single day that she said she was temporarily blocked from posting for a day. Off Field has also started selling the various vintage items she has stored under the house in Galveston, which is raised on Facebook Marketplace. But some hosts who feel the need to sell are waiting just a little bit longer. Cindy Cabrales and her husband decided to sell one of their 3 Airbnbs in Boulder, Colorado. But they're holding out for now because they have one more booking in July that so far hasn't canceled. The margins are so low, it doesn't make sense to keep it, Cabrales said. The pandemic just pushes it over the edge. And that concludes our reading here from this report. And just to throw a few more things out there for many of course, our own constituents throughout the Rastafari Groundation family, the LJ Society, of course. Um, Behind the scenes, of course, many real estate talks had been going on, and still continue to go on as we speak. And we really seek to bring out more real estate professionals to more so aggregate a lot of the information, especially for those who will be more interested. These are things that have been in the works for quite some time. We know we have spoken with certain ones who had really been interested in real estate at a certain period, and of course, this entire biohazard outbreak really has stifled a lot of industries, and real estate definitely taking its hit along with many others. And a lot of strategies are more so acute to this particular situation are needed in this sense to be deployed at this time, especially for those that, as here in the article, have been experiencing. But again, as we mentioned so many times before, and will continue to drive home, especially for anyone who will speak to us in this manner on a lot of these topics. In many crises, as always, there are always opportunities, as we can see here from the reading of this article specifically, on probably one of the fastest growing, if not one of, or if not the fastest growing industry, or at least tech platform related to real estate, especially on this side of the earth and the world over, and that is Airbnb, and many others, of course, have develop their own particular apps or websites or particular partnerships, and bringing about those type of industries within the real estate market. As we said so many times before, real estate can have so many layers to it, and a company such as an Airbnb has definitely created an avenue for those who may have the means and the know-how, and of course the funds to facilitate such ventures as this in a way that could be so lucrative for themselves if they, of course, have a particular a set of skills that can be utilized in this manner. But for those who really had been so serious about real estate before, as you can see here, there couldn't have been a better time for ones to break into the industry, even if it's at the minimal level of just having a property or two here or there to utilize throughout the year, even if they didn't utilize it themselves. So just throwing this out there, of course, for our own constituents, and who's to say that a group of ones and ones couldn't formulate a strategy, formulate a plan, some type of contingency to where all those could benefit, of course, having certain things laid out contractually so that there isn't a mix up here or there. A lot can really be done in this time if ones just have, the mindset and the foresight to really gather themselves in a sense to bring about some upward mobility for not only themselves but though all of those who may be a part. So this is again, just another message for ones who, really are looking for the opportunities or are trying to find ways and means of making certain things happen here or there. The opportunities are still lying here in wait. It's just a fact of the matter if ones are ready, willing, and able, to take that chance and also follow it up with a lot of diligence, follow it up with a lot of study, follow it up with a lot of information gathering that will benefit them and those around them for the best benefit of the greater good and also for some longevity in such matters or such times that may come up as these. Again, keeping the cyclical pattern in the forefront of one's minds will always have them ahead of the curve, quote unquote, as they say. But in uncertain times, I should say, as these, ones can predict the future in that sense. But you know, as the old saying goes, staying ready so that way you never have to get ready will always lead to the best outcome for those who prepare. So, just leaving this again on the forefront, a very interesting article, and I'm actually reading and rereading it myself, going through certain other articles and just kind of getting as much information as we can, especially about particular industries and real estate happened to come up, and we saw such things as these happening on a grand scale, especially on this side of the earth. We would like to know how a lot of these industries, or at least this industry particularly, is being affected in other places in the world as well. And sort of looking for a silver lining throughout a lot of our information gathering scheme that we use for ourselves in that sense. So again, throwing that out there for ones, and hopefully the wheels will get turning, and ones will start to really formulate some solid plans moving forward, and jump on those opportunities as soon as possible, because even so, as Brother Yada and many other economists, analysts, and specialized, we should say teachers in that sense, have said so many times before, that we really are in a time where the greatest transfer of wealth is happening right here in front of our eyes. And ones that really have adequately prepared, and those who are getting prepared right now and putting themselves in the best position possible will come out on the other end of this very differently than they were before this entire biohazard outbreak had begun. We are just simply doing our part, sharing the information, making sure that ones are informed, forearmed, and well warned of what lies in wait, and how ones can actually find a way to navigate throughout this treacherous time.